Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Gray here. Welcome back to another video. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about how Simon Sinek taught me how to run a business. So if you haven't heard of Simon Sinek, he is a TED Talk speaker. He's public speaker. He does interviews, podcasts, and a best-selling author of multiple books, two of which that I want to note is Leaders Eat Last and Start With Why. Now, this is kind of what kicked him off into the business space, and I want to talk about that in today's video. So the first thing I want to talk about is Start With Why, the book that kind of kicked off his fandom and just his success in both being an author and a public speaker, and I want to talk about it. So, Start With Why is his famous book and also TED Talk, where it's by the same name, where he taught me that businesses thrive when they lead with their purpose, when they actually have a reason to be doing what they're doing. And that reason can totally range from person to person. Maybe that's you want to be at home more with your family. Maybe you want to travel more. Maybe it's a specific cause. You're doing research, or you're developing an industry, or you're inventing something, or you have a reason, a mission to help, and it can vary completely. But great leaders inspire action and inspire everyone to take that action by sharing the purpose, the why, not just the how in terms of how to sell or how to build the item that you're doing, or the what you're making, but the why you are doing it. So a good example is, why do I own micromarkets? Why am I building a micromarket business? Well, on the personal side, I'm building a micromarket business so I can be at home more with my family. I've been hustling 50 to 70 hour weeks for years now. And I'm doing that not because I just love doing it, but because there is a purpose. I'm furthering my career so I can up my income to reinvest in the business, to build a better future, a better tomorrow, so that I can work in a business where I'm fine with working. I'm fine with that. It's the 40, 50 hour weeks away from my family. I want to be able to work from home, or at least allow me the opportunity to where I can knock out the business early in the morning. I can go from 5 to 10 a.m., absolutely crush what I need to, and then I have the rest of the day with my family. That, to me, is an ideal life where I'm working. I can still be working 30 or 40 hours a week, but I'm crushing it. I also want the opportunity, for me, again, my why is I want the ability to, every effort that I put in, all the energy that I put into this business, I want there to be a correlation. I want there to be an effect. I don't want to be putting in dozens and dozens of hours to then turn around and it not have an impact on my income. And so, but the why of the business, why do we do micromarkets? Well, we put micromarkets in gyms, specifically CrossFit for now, but we'll move into other gyms. But we do the micromarkets because athletes deserve ready, affordable, and quality items and selections for them at a convenient spot within their gym. And we love partnering with gyms because we can do the hydration drinks, we can do the energy drinks, we can do protein shakes. We have everything ready for them. And we partner with brands to build a micromarket within these businesses, in these CrossFit areas, so that athletes just have access to this. They can get local brands, they can get access to high quality things like Element, things like that. They can actually be there for their business. And it is also providing a service to the gym owner. The gym owner does not have to do anything, and we work out giving them a cut. But specifically, the gym owner is in a position where he can provide a better service to his athletes or her athletes, and we can build a better experience overall for the athlete, for maximized training benefit. And so that's kind of our why when we do this business, is we want to build that. Now, it'll change, of course, once we've maxed out the amount of gyms we can be in or the CrossFit space that we're in. We're going to move towards other things. But for now, that's the business we solve. And it's going to grow. Eventually, it'll just be micromarket solutions, where we're just providing micromarket services to businesses and buildings and stuff of that nature. But that's our why for right now, is we want to build a better quality service for the gym owners, for the athletes, so the athletes can have a better experience. What we're selling or how we're selling it, but knowing why guides everything else. And that brings me to point number 2, lead with empathy. And so in his other book that I've read is Leaders Eat Last. And so this book specifically talks about putting people first, building trust, inspiring loyalty, instead of just focusing on profits and revenue and metrics that are completely arbitrary. It's actually focusing on the person. And in this specific one, there's a reason why some teams pull together and others don't. And when you mix the start with why, when you have a mission that you're doing together, the other part of that is going to be, why do we have so many companies that have record-breaking profits, and yet you still have employees who are struggling? And I don't want to blame CEOs without specific cases. I want to be informed on that if I'm going to speak about a specific CEO. But I specifically want to talk about, again, why are we in companies where you're making billions of dollars, and yet your lowest guy on the totem pole, or your lowest team on the totem pole, is struggling to make rent, or having to pick up a second or third or fourth job, or both, he's, doing double income, no kids, where he or she is having to work extra with a partner, having to live with 5 roommates, extreme situations, sure, but why are we talking about CEOs that are getting $50 to $100 million a year, and you're having warehouse workers that are struggling to make their rent? To me, that just doesn't feel logical. One, I think it either means you're running a bad business, or you are a bad business owner. You're running a bad, you're just a bad CEO, because you should, in my philosophical opinion, this is not just Simon Sinek, but I did adapt this close from him, is that you should be able to survive off the lowest paid person in your company. Now, I'm not saying you have to pay. You took the risk. I'm a capitalist through and through. I think if you did the work and you built up the business, you deserve the reward of it. But I think as a merit, you should be able to live off the lowest paid person. And so that is just something to consider in that. So we want to talk about leading with empathy. Let's care about our customers. Let's care about our employees. Let's lead with the fact of, okay, we can make different amounts, we can earn different amounts, but we have a shared purpose. So why don't we have a shared quality of life where there's not this stress? And there's different ways to do that within business. Simon Sinek talks about actually making sure that per head, meaning per employee, you're making a certain amount of revenue. In our business, we want to do $100,000 at least per head of revenue, because we net about half that. And so if we're netting about half that, we can pay you to be part-time. If we're doing full-time, we want it to be closer to $250,000. That's our business specifically. Now, in a normal, bigger business, you might want to be looking at closer to $500,000. And honestly, the bigger that we get, we're probably going to push for that $500,000 ahead. So that means we're going to need to do $1 million a year to comfortably pay me and Zayden a reasonable salary before we do owner profit, stuff like that. But then we want to look into getting employees at some point. And so we want to consider growing that revenue to reflect that, so you can build a stable thing. When it comes to personal finance, it's the same way. You want to be able to take care of your stuff so that you can take care of the bills that need to come in. You don't want to be living paycheck to paycheck. You want there to be enough margin where you can comfortably invest and build for the future. And we want the same thing in business, but leading with empathy, not just asking, I might play the clip here, but there's a clip.
Business world. You walk into someone's office, someone walks into our office and says, your numbers have been down for the 3rd quarter in a row. You have to pick up your numbers, otherwise I can't guarantee what the future will look like. How inspired do you think that person is to come to work the next day? Here's what empathy looks like. You walk into someone's office, someone walks into your office and says, your numbers are down for the 3rd quarter in a row. Are you okay? I'm worried about you. What's going on? We all have performance issues. Maybe someone's kid is sick. Maybe they're having problems in their marriage. Maybe one of their parents is dying. We don't know what's going on in their lives. And of course it will affect performance at work. Empathy is being concerned about the human being, not just their output. And we have to practice empathy.
Your numbers have been down for 3 quarters in a row. I cannot guarantee your future at the company. Or your numbers have been down 3 quarters in a row. Are you okay? We don't ask that in business. And so me as a manager, I've adapted to that. And then as well, I've adapted to that in my business. I want to actually get to the point where when we do have employees, it's not just profits are down, revenue are down, or your metrics are, you're struggling. But are you actually okay? Is your family okay? Is everything? How can I help? Can I be of help in business? Because I want to be so successful in business that I have opportunities that are afforded to me that I can give to other people. I can give them paid time off. I can give them, if they're having health struggles or they just had a kid or something, I want to be able to give them what I wish I had, or maybe I did get as an employee. And so that brings me to point number 3, clarity causes action. And so Simon creates this golden circle framework that has helped me understand that if you have the why, the how, and the what, it creates an alignment within teams and it attracts customers who believe in your mission. And so if you have this clarity of why you're doing it, how you're going to do it, and what you're doing, and they have this assurance of the leaders are going to eat last. The leaders are not going to just take everything on the top and leave you to struggle, but we're working towards a shared purpose and we're getting the benefit of that shared victory. And so we want to talk about that when we're creating action. And so for my business, I've noticed that I want to make sure that when we set a goal, if it's a new account, if it's a new machine, if it's a new revenue target, if we're increasing profit, lowering cost, whatever it might be, that we have clear action on why we're doing it. Well, it's so we can grow, we can build a better, we can build a better service for our team, we can do all these different things, we can have a better experience for our customers, our clients, and our gym owners. But then also what we're doing, we're making it cheaper. We're lowering the price, we're raising the price, or we're providing a new product, or we're filtering new stuff, or we're lowering the cost, or we're getting shipping costs down, or we're buying in bulk, whatever it might be. And so then that brings me to point number 4. Focus on the long game. And so Simon emphasizes in his talks, in his interviews, especially on his podcast, true success requires patience and consistency. You don't want to just hustle through it and get to the very end. It's not going to happen overnight. Personal finance is the same way, and I talk about that a lot on this channel, is that it's a long game. You're not just going to be able to wave your hand and be a millionaire. The same way in business, you're not going to be able to wave your hand and create millions of dollars for your people. You want to be in this long game of consistent growth, consistent returns, and there's going to be up times and there's going to be down times, but making sure that you're prepared, you're staying for it, and you're sticking with your why, even when growth is hard. For me personally, now that I know my why, on my personal side, it's my family, and on the business side, it's a better experience for the customer and the gym owners and the athletes. And so for us, what I've noticed is when I know my why, and most of the time I do lean more on that personal side, but Zane and I have, I think, this bonded over the business side as well, is when you know why you're doing something, you will work harder at it. I'm not just, cleaning out my car because I want it to smell nice. I clean out my car because I want my kid to grow up in a clean space that they can just relax, they're calm, they're safe, they're healthy. I want my wife to be able to get in and out of the car without having to shove a bunch of trash in the floor. I want it to smell good in there. I want it to be good in there. I want to take care of the vehicle I have for my family. And that why will push you through. It'll push you through to that other side. When it gets difficult and it gets hard, it'll push you to the other side so that those late nights where you're working on spreadsheets or cost-benefit analysis or you're doing P&Ls, whatever it might be, when you're getting to that end of the night, when you're running on empty, you'll keep going. Because that's where winning is done, and that's also why winning is done. It's because you have a reason to keep pushing. And that brings me to point number 5. Culture is everything. And so Simon's idea about business, building a strong, purpose-driven company culture, is shared both in Start With Why and Leaders Eat Last, which, again, if you guys haven't checked out these books, definitely check them out. They're on Amazon, Audible, whatever, wherever you listen or read books. It shows that culture fuels motivation, innovation, and long-term success. And for us, I think, for me, culture is everything. I don't want to build a business just to get boatloads of money. I've said on this channel before, and I am serious, I would love to be a billionaire, and I'm pushing towards hitting that goal, but I don't want to get to $1 billion or even just, a couple million, and I be known, my reputation just be there where it's, he didn't take care of anybody, or he didn't help anybody, or he did it by himself. Because that sounds, cool in Forbes. He's a self-made millionaire or billionaire, but it's difficult, and no one's self-made. You had some help along the way in some way or another. And so I think culture is everything, where I would rather make a little less money personally, but know my people, my employees, they get the time off, they get to travel, they get to see their family. There's so many ideas I've had, and I won't know until my business is a little more successful, but actually to see, maybe we just take December off. It's slow at gyms. We prep in November. We maybe work really hard in November, and then we just take December off and we start the new year strong. Or maybe we just take a week off at a time, and I lose revenue for a week, but I make sure that my people are resting, recuperating, spending time with their family, doing trips, whatever it might be, and build a better life for the people that work there. And by the way, all of this whole video, you will retain people if you do this. There's going to be outliers for sure. But all I know is that if I worked at a company, and I kind of work at one now, where they have been pretty good. And I will stay longer and I'll work through those harder days because I can appreciate the quality of life that is brought to it. Because work is not just a paycheck unless you're not making a lot. When you start making a lot, and I just mean a lot of probably over 50K, and maybe that number is different depending on your life situation, but as you start to make more money, you realize that as a business owner, or even just as an employee, I would rather stay at a company that provides me a better life quality where I get to see my family than get a few $1,000s more. There was a big study done where people asked, or they just look, the happiness scale of the more money you make, how happy are you? And I think it was like after $80,000, you're not that much happier. Your quality of life might go up, but it's mostly just frivolous things. And so for me, I want my culture to be not just money driven, where we're actually getting, results and we're making a lot of money, but I also want there to be that culture aspect where we're living the best lives that we can. And so if you guys have any questions or anything, let me know in the comments down below, and let me know who I should talk about next. Simon Sinek has been one kind of on the radar for a little bit because these two books have absolutely changed my life. And so if you guys have any comments or anything, definitely let me know down there, and be sure to drop a like and consider subscribing. I love making these videos. I'm trying to make as many as I can. And on top of that, we're trying to hit 500 subscribers. So definitely consider sharing this with a friend if you guys got any value out of this. And I'll see y'all in the next one. Adios.